As Paul said, I'm Dr Jo Barnes. I'm an Associate Professor of Clean Air at the University of the West of England in Bristol. I've been researching air quality policy, air quality management for around 20 years now. And yeah, I teach air quality on master's programs, undergraduate programs, and I run short courses for professionals on air quality. And very interested particularly not only on air quality management and policy, but on air quality and inequalities as well. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to talk to that as well. So without further ado, so the topic of the Assembly obviously is tackling air quality, public health, what have I done? Can you still hear me? That's good. Oops, no, what's happened? There we go, gone backwards. Technology. So air quality, public health and climate change, and so that's what I've tried to cover in this presentation, looking at carbon reduction and air quality and managing the synergies. So I think some of the previous speakers have highlighted the fact that air quality and climate change don't necessarily always work together. So sometimes there are trade-offs, and we need to try to make sure that we are always improving air quality and reducing carbon emissions at the same time and not having the trade-offs. I am going to talk about some of these trade-offs in this talk so that we can highlight that if we are trying to work towards reducing carbon and air quality, then we need to watch out for these things. So the two biggest challenges for local authorities really in both decarbonisation and air quality is road traffic and home heating. So I'm going to talk about each of these. So on the traffic, on the transport side of things, we know that diesels are generally more fuel efficient and have lower CO2 emissions. And as a result, there was a lot of tax incentives that were introduced some years ago, and that really increased the number of diesel vehicles on the roads. But unfortunately, diesel vehicles are not so good for air quality. So they produce more NOx emissions, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. And we did see an increase in the 2000s as a result of the increase in diesel vehicles on the roads, together with the Dieselgate scandal, which I think somebody else has talked about already, where we had defeat devices, meaning that some motor manufacturers were falsifying the emissions tests. So both of those things together led to more NO2 concentrations in urban areas. We also have a problem with non-exhaust emissions, and I think one of the previous speakers has mentioned this before, so I won't go into a lot of depth, but just to remind you that actually, as well as the exhaust emissions, we also have particulate matter from tyre and brake wear and resuspended dust from the road. And that doesn't matter if you have a petrol or diesel or an electric vehicle. All of those vehicles are going to be producing non-exhaust emissions. So particulate matter is going to be a problem, even with electric vehicles. And if we think about plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, they're a particular problem because they're very heavy, they have batteries, and they also have an internal combustion engine. And so the combined weight of those makes them heavier vehicles, and therefore they produce more non-exhaust emissions. Now, we know that if we just replace, like for like, our fossil-fueled vehicles, our diesel and petrol vehicles with electric vehicles, then we're still going to have many of these same problems. I don't know if you can read these things on this slide, it's a bit difficult, I suspect. But what we're looking at here is that, I don't know if I've got a pointer on here. Maybe not. This is looking at increased car ownership and use, leading to a contribution to CO2. Leading to a contribution to CO2 emissions and poorer air quality, but also declines in walking, increased permeable surfaces because there's more demand for roads and parking, which leads to pollution, runoff from flash flooding. We've also got issues with retail centres, enlarged growth in out-of-town retail centres and the closure of local shops and things. So if we think about this in reverse, if we decrease our car ownership and use, then we can improve society, the environment and the economy more generally. The other thing I mentioned was home heating. And we have seen over the last few years a huge increase in wood burning in domestic properties. This has been partly due to incentives through the renewable heat incentive scheme. So again, this was introduced in order to help to reduce CO2 emissions, but we have seen that it is increasing particulate matter, and obviously that's not good for air quality. The other thing that we're seeing coming forward now is a government policy towards phasing out our gas boilers and introducing hydrogen boilers. Unfortunately, if we do that, that's also going to lead to NOx emissions. So we have nitrogen oxide emissions from our gas boilers, and we will also have NOx emissions from hydrogen. So if we just change gas to hydrogen, we're locking ourselves into a future of continually producing more NOx. Sorry?
I was flexing also got to make that.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Okay. Very briefly, I just wanted to introduce, so in London, I'm not sure if you're aware, because I'm not sure if anybody else has mentioned this, but if new developments in London are required to be air quality neutral, and that means that they have to meet benchmarks for maximum emissions of NOx and particulate matter for both heating and transport. And even large-scale developments and master plans must also go further than that and actually be air quality positive, going beyond those benchmarks. London local authorities can draw on the London Air Quality Action Matrix, which is a list of different actions that are available to local authorities, ideas essentially, inspiration if you like. But these are set out under different categories. So we have categories for developments and buildings emissions, public health and awareness raising, delivery services and freight, the own boroughs, fleet actions, council's transport, localised solutions, which includes things like urban greening and cleaner transport. So when you're thinking about your recommendations, you maybe want to think about some of these topic areas as areas of inspiration for you too. One other way which you could also help the council is by thinking about how you would like your streetscape redesigned. This is possibly something the council won't thank me for asking you to do, but it's one of the ways in which we can help to improve our streetscapes for walkers and cyclists, for active travel users rather than for motor vehicles, and to therefore encourage people out of motor vehicles and to use these other modes, is by changing the streetscape. And you can see here two London examples here where we've had quite dramatic changes to the streetscape, with the above picture above the top and the after picture below. And lastly, I just wanted to share this with you as well, because this is a tool that you can use to help to, I'm not sure if I can get this to switch on. How do I do that? Click on it. So this is a trial product at the moment. I was at a conference in Leicester on Wednesday, and this was introduced, so I thought I'd just bring it to you here. Basically, it's a tool that you can use, and you can create your own sort of streetscape based on a photograph of your local area. It is only in beta at the moment, and you can get a 1-month free trial, but it's quite a nice tool just to be able to help people to visualise what you would like your streetscape to look like. And within the library, within the toolkit there, it's got all sorts of things, sort of cycle sheds and cycle park areas, and different ways of segregating the streets, etc., and paving and drop curbs, etc. So you can use that to help to create a streetscape for your local area, and that can really help as a good communication tool. Stop that there. Okay. And finally, just a few relevant publications that I've highlighted here.